can hear us. But welcome, experienced Canterbury team here. We've got Bruce Moffat, the manager, James Urquhart, the chair of the board, and you might like to introduce your member site, Joe.
Yeah, and our new board member, Chris Grawley.
Welcome, Chris. And you've got your quarterly report here in front of us. We've read it. Do you need to update it or go to questions, or what would you like to do? The floor is yours, James.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And firstly, as we get underway, I would like to congratulate our new mayor. It's great to see you back up the front again, so it's good for us. And also our deputy mayor, Councillor McMillan. It's great to have someone from home up the front as well, so it's really cool. And also all the other councillors that got back on, and also our new councillors. It's going to be great to have the support of everyone here for our tourism body. As the mayor just said, Bruce Moffat is our GM of Experience Mid-Canterbury, who oversees our operation here in Mid-Canterbury. Just a bit of a background for us. Really, our objective and our job as a tourism body is to promote our district and our region, to get people into our district. It's pretty much our fundamental operation, and then via that we also run the Mewwhanai site, and that's pretty much what we do under the EMC, which, as you're aware, we are a CCO, part of the council controlled organisation, and our relationship with council's been strong. It's getting stronger, and we do appreciate and thank you for the support that we've been getting for the last previous seasons and years. As we just talked about, you would have got our quarterly review. Normally Bruce would lead this one, but I just thought as chair, I'd start off with it. But this is when we'll open it back up to the floor if there are any questions on the quarterly review. I do have a couple other notes that I'll just run into after questions from the floor.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Your second part, yes, the second page, Mewwhanai Site Visitor Information Centre. The retail sales, is that gross or net? And the booking sales seem to be all over the place. You had 24,000 in January 19, down to 2, and then way up to 20. Why is such a huge variation?
Thanks, Councillor Wilson. Firstly, they are gross sales. The reason that we have had such a muddle in this particular instance, and if we look at, say, September as a great example there, we've got a new employee at the Mewwhanai site who has only just been trained using our Xero system. So in this particular instance, when I updated this some 10, 12 days ago, that was the number that was showing in Xero. That's all been cleaned up, and we can present another version if you would like. But that's in simplest terms, it hasn't been entered into our Xero system, which is our backup, our accounting system.
Supplementary?
Yes, but why such a huge variation between January, February, and then April, May? 21 to...
That's because that's our peak season, so we would expect to see a higher range of retail sales and that of booking sales. Then takes quite a bit of a dip, even through the winter time it can take quite a bit of a dip. And then coming out into September, October, it's a very, very, very quiet time for tourism as a whole. But it's also fair to say it's a time to show that the eyesights are struggling in the whole of the New Zealand market, and that's not excluding the Mewwhanai site.
James, you said someone joined you. You might like to introduce, please.
Yeah, this is one of our new board members. This is Graham Russell. So
Apologies for that. That's right.
We're early.
You're actually spot on time. We're early. Yeah. Welcome, Graham.
You're in time for afternoon tea, so that's the start.
Councillor Cameron.
Thank you. Can you hear me right? Thank you very much for this report. I just have a few questions. The first one is around the information needs provided by the Ashburton Library. I noticed, I was a wee bit disappointed to see we're missing the last 3 months, but also other than that, it's a very low number. Do you think that the Ashburton Library is meeting the needs of the people of Ashburton and the tourists in terms of information?
So in first part, I received the new numbers post writing this report. Again, this is 12 days old. So July was 49, August was 35, and September was 26. Now, the important thing to understand is these numbers arrive from actual conversations with the library staff. So if somebody pops in and just picks up a brochure inside the area, it's not counted. So you could almost, arguably, you could probably double these numbers knowing what we restack every week into the library. Your second question, are they doing a good job? They absolutely are. I mean, we've got the Somerset Cafe, we've got the library, and we've also got the Require Information Centre that, they are largely satellite information centres. That's what people have asked for, and the rest of the time they're discovering our district online.
Sure.
Supplementary?
Do you think we would benefit, though, from more clarification around those numbers? I mean, we don't know how many people are asking information about the district from the Somerset Grocery or from the library or taking pamphlets or whatever.
We agree.
Yeah.
Look, the only information that we've been asked to get in the past has just been a numbers numbers piece. We can certainly ask about what sort of questioning was asked or the inquiry itself.
Sure.
And move forward from there.
And then I have another question on another topic entirely. I see you're waiting for some tax refunds. Do you have an idea of what sort of, you haven't alluded to any funds in there, is that 5,000 or 100,000?
Yeah, so it's still to be determined. So essentially, as per my report, audit is absolutely happy with the business as it stands. When the audit papers went across their tax manager in Wellington, he thought it looked a rather strange situation whereby we were paying more tax than we should have this year. And further through into his investigation, it was found that we were paying more tax in the past. And this has simply been a case because it's all manual. So Audit New Zealand use a completely different standard than accountants do in New Zealand. And so our accountant basically has to pull apart our books and rebuild them. And what happened basically is in the first instance that we were audited, they pulled the books apart, applied the tax, and then took the components that had tax for that following year out, so it balanced perfectly, and that hasn't been done since. And so, we've applied through our accountant has applied to IRD to find out what we are owed. There is a number that's been circling around. It's around about $24,000 that's been overpaid. But again, haven't been determined of that.
Councillor Flood?
Yeah, just following up on that, your accountant, are they a qualified member of the Institute or are they an enthusiastic volunteer?
No, they're playing up a bit because mine wouldn't go either.
Now push the other one.
Push it up.
Right. Use James's one.
I think they're playing up Neil's as well.
On the top?
They've both given
Yeah. I think they're playing up because mine wouldn't go either.
Paul's got one coming. Paul, send that one over.
Yeah, normally that mine's been playing up. It wouldn't go
No, that's all
either.
right. Fantastic. Thank you for your question. The answer is yes, they are a fully qualified accountancy. It's Croy's.
Okay. I'll take that one up outside the room. Now, you've given us lots of figures there, overnight stays and that sort of thing. They're all only on a monthly figures, which to me are completely useless because we know on a monthly figure they can be up and down like a thistle seed in a nor'wester type of thing. How far back do your figures go, and can you give us yearly figures to give us some meaningful figures on growth in sales, whatever type of thing, visitor numbers and that sort of thing?
So firstly, I'll address you about data in the tourism industry. What I'll say is there's zero amount of data in the industry. We have one report that is delivered by MB on a semi-monthly basis called the Tourism Spend Estimates, which is one of the measures that we have in here. And we used to, up until this month, have a Stats New Zealand report called the CAM Results, which was the Commercial Accommodation Monitor. It's being scrapped. And so we, in the whole of the tourism and the tourism industry in New Zealand, are now left with a spend report only. We can go back a couple of years, but you know, we can certainly get that at a metric level, but in terms of how it's spent, past years we can't see that because once it's gone into the ether. So we can see a raw number, but we can't see anything that breaks it down.
Thank you.
Thank you. I've got two questions. One is Gary Lee. So he looked like he was due to end his term on 1st of October. So is that rolling over another term?
Here we go. Yeah, you're correct. We are just rolling that over, and we just
For
talked
3
about
years,
that. Yeah,
or-
yeah.
Okay, thank you. And the other question is, and maybe Neil McCann can answer this, but is the phone still in the library that was connected directly to the Methven eyesight so that people could go into the library and pick up the phone and get put through straight to the Methven eyesight for any help they needed?
No, it's not from a direct perspective. It was taken out because people were using it inappropriately. But they can still call from the library over to the Methven eyesight, no problems at all.
Councillor Williamson.
Thank you. Thank you for your report. Bruce, you referred to eyesights and said they're all starting to struggle a little bit. Is that because of people now using the apps with the GeoMate and CamperMate?
That's absolutely correct. So part of the downfall and our investigations that we had when we looked at closing the Ashburton eyesight was a very big component of online. And I literally used to see it in the Ashburton eyesight where one of the consultants would offer all of the experience that was available, ask them for the booking, and they walk outside the door, connect to the Wi-Fi outside our building and make the booking themselves. That's reality globally, really, but eyesights in New Zealand are under a very large strategy survey right now to understand, A, are they going to continue on at an eyesight level? And secondly, how will that look? There is currently 3 eyesights out of 83 eyesights that are making profit. So that'll give you a pretty good idea of where they stand.
Thank you for that. And just at the weekend, I was away roaming around for 5 days, and we found one eyesight that was unmanned, so staff from a cafe would come to it if someone wanted help. But on the app was just the easiest way to find
Yes.
out everything we needed to know.
Yeah, there is some conversation right now as to if eyesights were to be disestablished at a local level, what would that look like online? And in fact, they've built a website that has the ability for a booking engine to be put in place. Which of course we're all against right now because it's taking away revenue from the local stores. But there is actually a strategy in place to potentially move that into play if this survey that's circulating New Zealand right now, has anything to say from it.
I'll follow up on that one. Just a really good, interesting read. If you ever get a chance, is the tourism ticker. If you guys want to, we probably should actually under council probably be a member of it. But it's actually a really good read. And in the latest tourism ticker, which I just read this morning, they talked about eyesight's actually the latest AGM, which is in September, and 3 more eyesights have just closed this year as well. So it's a really good read on the strategy on where eyesights are sort of moving to. So we're watching that one.
And we do get the tourism ticker. It turns up on our emails.
Oh, sweet.
I do anyway, so. Oh. I'll get someone to forward it around. Councillor Lovett.
I was just going to ask, do you think seeing the eyesights they're turning into information centres, because you see a lot of them around information booths, pamphlets, everything sitting there, local maps, and they're unmanned, and I'm just wondering, is that, they morphing themselves into something different?
So Eyesight itself is owned by Tourism New Zealand. The brand itself is cost neutral. It costs $1,650 a year to be a subscriber of Eyesight. But there are some really key mandates that are within that, and one of those is operating 7 days a week, which is a really big damaging piece to your revenue or to your outcomes. But the second part as well is that you have to open certain hours of the day as well. So it's quite restrictive in terms of what other operating environments are doing. We're very aware that there are information centres and non-branded information centres that are around the area, around New Zealand, and they are either manned by volunteers or they're a satellite station.
Supplementary?
Supplementary, just another question I was going to ask you. The staff over there in the library, do they receive training at all, or is there training available there for them to help people, or what is there? Shaking your head, it must be nothing.
There you go, Bruce.
Thank you. So the answer to that is yes. We've been through a very large formal training session about our operators in the district, areas that they will be asked for in terms of places like Lake Tekapo, Christchurch, Kaikoura. And we've also done a fairly significant piece of work around operating within our website as well.
Councillor Cameron?
Thank you. I just have a question regarding visitor spend. Do you have a breakdown between domestic and international visitor spend on that?
Yes, we do. This is a really strange machine. Yes, we do, and normally I'd put that in there, but I haven't this time. But it's roughly around, domestics are roughly around about $126 million, and internationals around 58, something like that.
So it's like 60, 65, 35.
Absolutely.
Something.
Now, that's pretty standard around the whole of New Zealand, with the exception of, say, places like Kaikoura.
Thank you.
Councillor Mackay?
Mr Mayor, thank you. Mr Moffat, one gets close to Ashburton and looks up their phone to find out where they can get information. How do they know it's the library in Somerset Grocer?
Firstly, it's on our website. Secondly, it's also on the door of the eyesights as well. So, yeah, not sure how any other way we can do that.
Right. Might like to show me where it is.
Oh, I'll show you on here.
Oh, probably not now, but we can do it later. Yeah.
Because it's not there.
Right. No, it's definitely on there, and I'll show you where it is.
Okay, further, Councillor Falloon.
Just coming back to the New Horizons program, where you look like you've gone to Guangzhou, no doubt with China Southern.
Yes.
Yep. What was the aim of that? Are you aiming for, Chinese tend to go in groups and bus tours type thing. Were you aiming that trip itself drives the people who are going to come and visit facilities here in Mid-Canterbury, or what was the aim?
Yeah, so I've left this mic on because it seems to be playing up. But firstly, there's been a dynamic change in the Chinese industry over the last 3 to 4 years, and they don't do touring all that much any longer. They do what's called FIT, which is free and independent travelling. So essentially, they're picking up a motorhome, rental car, or using our very loose public transport. And they're basically taking their unplanned itinerary, in some cases, around New Zealand. Our job when we were over there is to get as many travel agents on board with our products. And so the purpose of New Horizons is just to talk about the trade, talk with the trade up in China. And in that instance, we were in Guangzhou, Shanghai, and Xi'an. And I've got to say, out of all of the cities, Shanghai and Guangzhou were the most sustainable from our perspective. We've already seen 2 travel agent groups that have come down as a result of that, so they're actually wanting to see more about the product. And that's a really important thing for the Chinese market. They need to see and feel what the product's like, rather than just taking, they always call it our propaganda, our marketing and our promotional. In back end of September, we also had the head of Air New Zealand for China in our district, and he wanted to experience the products for himself, so he could take that back as well. So it's just taking those references from when we're travelling and getting them to come down and experience our product, and that's the way we win the battle.
Thank you.
If I could just add a little bit more to that one, because that's a valid question. One of the things that we do really well, and very proud of Bruce and his team, is we JV a lot with a lot of outside organisations to make our dollar go a lot further, i.e. That was solely funded by Christchurch Airport. Third trip, maybe fourth, I don't know what it is. They paid for myself. How we actually operate to do it is between, say, for the company that I work for the ski resorts, we weigh it up. I weigh it up with Bruce to see if it's worth him going or I go, and if there's a cost in it, normally then I would go, because then I'd get our company to pay for it. And if there was no cost, then we can always send Bruce. And that's thanks to our partners of Christchurch NZ and also Christchurch Airport, who then solely 100% fund it. So we work between ourselves to make sure that we can sort of travel around. I went there earlier this year, spoke to I don't know how many thousand people, and I said to them, if you get to New Zealand, look me up. And sure enough, I had 4 groups turn up. They dropped one of them dropped $150,000 with our company for pretty much a week. They turned up. They literally turned up on our doorstep and rang me and said, we're here. So they are turning up, like it or not. They are coming. So it's a very important piece that we get on that sort of gravy train a little bit and just make sure that we're supporting the China Southern. We also had the chairman of China Southern here in Canterbury as well. And we hosted his wife and family and everyone in mid-Canterbury. So it's a pretty big deal for us to be in that sort of environment.
Overall costs for that trip was $274. Most of that was because of a visa.
That's pretty economical, isn't it? That's
Pretty
good.
economical trip, yeah.
Yeah, and that's a good news story as well.
Yes.
Through the election campaign, and we're in Methven, and there's a wise ratepayer up there, asked the mayoral candidates and the other members who are up there from the Western Ward about funding for Experience Mid-Canterbury. And we said, yes, we would look at it. So just following on from that, we're here now, some of us, and some aren't, some are. But we're going to do our budgets next year, starting in probably February. So we probably need from you, because you say the funding's short, we probably need, how much short is it? And if we were to lift it, a business case as to why we should lift it. So just a heads up, if you'd like to start preparing that for our funding round annual plan next year, then it's probably about February-ish it would come in. I'm not sure what your timeline is, but we'd need some information to support an increase in the funding as we talked about on the night. So that's good. Can't see any further questions. So we're thinking that the tourism needs of the Angus, you already did.
I am very happy that they're fulfilling their role as they were set up to some years ago. I still have a question around information, and I would like the council, not Experience Mid-Canterbury, I'd like the council to look at the information systems that we have here in Ashburton, because when I looked up the eyesight on the phone, it said closed. In red on my phone. So I'm not convinced, so I'd actually like this council to have a workshop on information, because all the information outlets in the town of Ashburton are not just tourist outlets to the tourist, they are to locals as well. And I'd like, as a new councillor, that we have a workshop on the matter and maybe a report from staff. And the way it fits, also in the way it fits in the town plan.
Okay, so you'd like a workshop rather than a report, and the workshop may lead to a report?
Could do, yes.
Or it may not.
Quite happy with that, Mr. Mayor. Yep.
Workshop, this is a suggestion there. Councillor Cameron.
I think that's a very good suggestion, and I think that's something that does need discussion, and it's certainly very prevalent in people's minds at the moment. Yeah, top of mind.
So, Hamish, that can be arranged, and who would attend? Councillors and Experience Mid-Canterbury? Or need the report?
Well, we'll give it we can certainly arrange it, and we hear the request and understand it, and we'll put it in place. I think where this conversation has ended up highlights the difference between a general information service need and an eyesight trying to book tourism activities. And that's the piece of the current debate, both publicly and around the table, that needs clarifying, and we need a real focus on what is the need, because every time you see the word eyesight, the context seems to mean information service rather than the eyesight itself, which of course we've just heard from our experts is an outdated model right around the country. So we would welcome the opportunity to put together a workshop and have a full discussion with councillors around exactly what is the gap or the need for information in the community. Part of it may well be tourism related. My own suspicion is that that's a small part of it in reality, that the bigger part of this information discussion is not tourism related, but it's certainly part of it, and we would welcome the involvement of EMC to make sure that we do nail that piece of it as well.
Yep. Councillor Wilson.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I've got a question. Experience Mid Canterbury has publicly complained about the lack of increased funding. Was it not correct that when we closed the eyesights, which was costing Experience Mid Canterbury 80,000 per eyesight, you pocketed that money as an increase in your funding directly? It was debated at the council whether you should receive that, and the council decided at the time for you to keep that money. Therefore, you did get quite a substantial increase 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, that is correct, and thank you for letting us keep that money, which is really nice. But prior to that, we were going down a pretty dark hole, hence why we went through this whole journey. You know, it's an interesting one. You know, like we're there now. You know, we got a few years ago we got moved from a trust into a CCO, which from that we absorbed another $40,000 worth of costs, audit fees, board fees, insurance, everything else that got slammed on us once we moved into, which was recommended by council, which we had to absorb. So all we're doing is robbing Peter to pay Paul a little bit and just moving funds around. So whichever way you want to look at it. But yeah, definitely, yeah, we did end up with a bit more funds, which was to be used for marketing the region. You know, and every year costs go up, and we're losing funds every year as well. Thanks to the council, you guys have been taking $10,000 away from us every year, and it'll be $100,000 in a few more years' time. So, yeah, we're going backwards due to our funding.
So,
Supplementary. Yes, I was perhaps the author of that 10,000, but the restriction was, with a $180 million industry, surely that industry can pick up that 10,000. I mean, every other industry in this district, are we going to subsidise as ratepayers an industry with a turnover of 180 million? I know you dodged the question by saying it's difficult for people who benefit to actually pay. What other industry in this district is subsidised with the way that we subsidise the tourism?
Can I just answer that quickly, that we actually don't make $185 million. That's what goes into the local GDP. We don't make any money. We're a non-profit organisation, and you know, that's where we sit. We've never made $185 million, $170 million you're saying, but that's what's actually paid into the community as a result of people touring in this market.
Well, why aren't they so keen to subsidise Experience Mid Canterbury if you're doing such a wonderful job in promoting this district?
Well, they do. You know, I don't know if you heard earlier on, we just talked about Christchurch Airport supporting us. We talk about the ski area that supports well and truly supports more funding than our local council does, and it's a private company. So I find that interesting that private enterprise in our region is actually supporting tourism probably more than what our council is. And you know, we can have this debate. It's gone around for years, and I've been on this board for nearly 9 years or whatever it is, and we're just going back around in circles. And I appreciate it, and I don't get me wrong. Yeah, it comes down to what council believe is a priority for this region. That's what it comes down to. And if council wants to support tourism, then we will work our hardest to make sure that we get growth and a return. As I said in the last meeting in Ashburton, it works out on the dollar value, nearly $5,600 return per ratepayer as we give back to the community on the funding that we're given.
So we can flesh that out in their workshop. Councillor McMillan?
Thank you. Did you keep records at the eyesight of how many locals were coming in asking questions versus your tourists? Did you keep a record of that?
We are doing that, and that's a continual process that we've had for the last few years since we closed the Ashburton eyesight. So at Methven we have all that data, albeit it's quite manual. But there is also within our system called IBIS a reporting mechanism that tells us where they've come from and that sort of thing. But it's not the greatest of reporting, to be very honest.
Thank you.
And final one for Councillor Falloon, then we move on.
I just wonder if it's decided that we do hold a workshop, would it be relevant to pull previous agenda items which have gone to previous councils, just to bring particularly the new kids on the block up to date, please?
Do that.
Yes, just noting that most of those will be about an eyesight building, which is only a small part of the conversation about an information service. But if that's still of value, we can do that.
Thank you, James. Anything further? All tied up. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for attending and presenting your quarterly report. We'll probably have a workshop before your next one, so let's hope we get some progress and we're all moving in the right direction for the betterment of the district. So thanks very much. Oh, Councillor Mackay.
That's all right.
Oh, sorry?
No, well done.
Okay, no, all good.
Do you require a formal motion, or we take it that the Chief Executive has agreed?
I think we've taken it, you agreed to the workshop.
Yes, although a motion is welcome because it does tend to give clarity to the request, whereas when people just talk about a workshop of information services, does that mean our computer system? Probably not. Does that mean an eyesight? Does it mean, like a more specific request will help focus the workshop?
I'll take a motion.
I'm off the cuff here. I move, Mr Mayor, that Council has a workshop on information delivery to the people of Ashburton and visitors in that order, and how this fits into the new town plan, CBD plan.
I'd like to second that, please.
The first sentence, what does that mean? To me, information, what was it? It doesn't make sense to me.
It's the delivery of information to our residents and tourists. Information, whatever, we will find out what information they're getting or not getting and their needs.
Mr Mayor, what's the information about? It says provide information to our residents, but it doesn't say what it's about.
It would be, Councillor Mackay?
Question, Mr Mayor? Question to you. How long do you want the motion to be?
Brief is better.
Yeah, I thought I had been brief.
Yep. Councillor Lovett?
Can I just add to that, if you're going to have this workshop, can we ask Community House to be involved with their planning and what they provide, and also Presbyterian support? Some of these organisations that deliver community information and what they hold and what they do. We need other stakeholders in this, otherwise we're just duplicating, and I think we need to thresh this out, what people of Ashburton want to know, what their needs are, not what we think.
And what is being delivered now?
And what's being we need to know what's being delivered now, and only involving Community House, and that will we find out.
We may not have to get them in, but we may ask them for what they are delivering.
Yes.
So we have it.
And we need a combined effort here, because it's really local stuff people are asking for, and we think we might be getting a CAB here, and I think we really need to thresh all this out. We can't duplicate. It's not prudent use of ratepayers' money.
No further questions. I have a mover, a seconder for that motion. Do you want it read back or? Carol, have you got something together?
Yep, the council has a workshop, the council has a workshop on information delivery to the people of Ashburton and visitors in that order and how this fits into the new CBD plan.
Against? No. Carried. Recorded? Yeah, if you'd like to stay, we're going to break for afternoon tea in about 15 minutes, so more than welcome to stay and have a chat. Sarah, welcome to new and long-serving staff.
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor, I'd like to introduce a number of new staff to ADC, and when I call your name, if you don't mind just standing up at the back, that would be fantastic. So we've got Marie Buchanan, and she's our new Accounts Officer. We have Anita Lewis, who is joining the building counter with the building team at the front counter. We have Casey Lang, who's our help desk officer, and William McCormick, who's our monitoring enforcement officer. So those are the 4 new staff, and we have 2 service recognitions that I'd like to come forward. So we've got Mel Puritan and Janet Lloyd, if you could please come this way. So both Mel and Janet, so this is Mel, and then Hamish. Both Mel and Janet work at EA Network Centre and have been working at the community pool prior to EA Network Centre as well. So they've had 5 years with ADC and numerous years prior at the community pool. Mel is, an group fitness instructor who specialises in aquasizing and aquaboarding as well, which is a new initiative. I encourage anyone to give it a go. It is harder than it looks, but you must get better at it. And also we've got Janet Lloyd, who's one of our long-standing Learn to Swim tutors and has done it for numerous years. So, look, thank you so much for continuing your service with ADC, and long may it continue.
Thank you very much, ladies. That's well done, 5 years. So moving on now to the Certificate of Service for former Councillor Thelma Bell. And I'll just sit here and read a wee bit first while you're coming up, Thelma, before the microphone. Thelma, you were successfully elected to the council in 2016, representing the Ashburton ward. So on behalf of the people of this district, I'll thank you for the work that you've done on behalf of the council and for your commitment and dedication, and I wish you all the best for your future endeavours.
Just say thank you. Thank you, everyone. And it was really a privilege that I was able to serve one term. And yes, relationships and friendships built on during that time is awesome. I'll be the same.
Thank you, Thelma. It's been a pleasure working with you as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
And
everyone.
Thelma. And you can pick it up after the afternoon tea.
Just for fun.
You keep both of them.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks. Thank you very much. Yes, thank you.
That's us. Yeah, we're done. Oh, break for afternoon tea. Yeah. Well, thank you, councillors. That's all the open part of the meeting has been completed. So we'll break now for a cup of tea, and we'll come back after that for a small in-committee matter. So let's go and have a cup of tea and chat.